Hello, I'm Rachel Whitehouse.
And I'm Katie Varner. Welcome to the special Halloween edition of TMN Television on Thursday, October 31st.
Tonight, we take a look at an AM housing update. We also check out our special new show, Kirksville Creeps.
And don't forget to stay tuned for our Truman Sports Update. These stories and more tonight on TMN Television. You don't want to miss this.
The academic departments at Truman State University have been forced to make internal changes due to declining enrollment. Janet Gooch, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Provost, says departments have a more challenging time predicting the number of courses they provide, especially with classes that fill requirements for the Liberal Studies program. She also says there are some departments that aren't seeing as much of a change, such as the nursing program. This program still sees a surplus of applicants compared to what it can accommodate for.
The Sandra K. Giacchino Reeve Sesquicentennial Plaza construction is officially finished with a ribbon-cutting ceremony October 19th, just in time for homecoming. The plaza renovation project was approved February of this year, and construction began when commencement of the last academic year was finished. The plans for the new plaza went through many different design changes, such as more trees. The full budget has not yet been disclosed, but the majority, $1 million, came from the Reeve estate, giving the plaza its namesake. Reeve was a former member of the Truman State University Foundation Board, as well as an alumna of Truman School of Business. The old fountain was built around the 80s and had several issues. In addition to the visible structure of the old fountain falling apart, there was no filtration, sterilization, or chemical treatment to the water. The old fountain also had to be filled with a garden hose and then pumped out when finished. The concept of redoing the fountain started 12 years ago, with preliminary plans beginning in 2015. The new fountain has filtered and chemically treated water that goes through a sterilization unit and does not need to be filled with a garden hose. The fountain also has LED lights that can change colors and systems that control the water to reduce the amount of splashing outside of the fountain's area. There has also been some landscape work done and room for possible improvements in the future.
Local theater has found a place to thrive in Kirksville with a group called the Curtain Call Theater Company. Curtain Call began in 1997 as a traveling theater group that performed in venues across Kirksville. 3 years ago, the group began renting an old church building on Elizabeth Street, which it was able to purchase this past summer. The group typically puts on 4 productions throughout the year in addition to a number of dinner theaters at local restaurants all across. All actors in Curtain Call productions are local residents, and the group hosts open auditions for each production. The theater will be performing the Agatha Christie play And Then There Were None, November 1st and 2nd at 7 p.m. each night. Tickets are $12 and are available at the door.
This past May, AM Housing purchased a house in hopes of opening a much-needed homeless shelter in Kirksville. However, due to city codes, the house has been used as emergency low-income housing. Tenants are required to have a source of income and pay a certain percentage of said income. AM Housing has been able to serve several individuals this way. However, plans to open an emergency transitional housing facility are still in the process. This past month, AM Housing held a garage sale, asking the community for donations to sell. During the actual garage sale, individuals were invited to walk through the newly painted house and purchase building supplies for the house, such as windows, cabinets, and doors. Different organizations around campus have been spending a few weekends at the house, working on repairs and cleaning up the building, which was once a fraternity house. This past Tuesday, AM Housing invited people to eat at Colton's Steakhouse, where a portion of the money made went to AM Housing. These past 2 fundraisers were quite successful, and AM Housing plans to have more in the future in order to continue to serve Kirksville.
Next up, we have our Truman weather forecast.
And after that, we meet the staff with Gabby Tweehouse.
Stay tuned after the break.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Reporter Gabby Tweehouse talked with multimedia editor Katie Varner on this week's Meet the Staff.
My name is Katie Varner. I'm a communication major and a film studies minor. So I joined TMN TV at first as part of my scholarship job, but I stayed because it's really cool. Like, it's an amazing group, it's a great opportunity, and I really like it. Being part of the staff is really cool because like you get all the opportunities to learn things like on and off the camera. You know, like making videos is like a passion of mine, and so this has just been like a really, really great way to learn more. And then it's just fun to like goof off with everyone. So I really like making short videos, not really film because they're not very good, but I've always liked doing that, and I think having like a short video contest, that would be like a monthly contest thing open to everyone, would be really cool for the show. Some advice that I would have for future people of TMN would be to do what you love, stick to your passions. That sounds cheesy, but like when you're doing what you really like as, you know, a show position or a story or just like part of TMN, you do it 100 times better. Free Shabakadoo! Just because I can't read. I can't read good. The weirdest thing I've ever seen at Truman was probably our Quidditch team. Like, not because they're bad weird, it was just different. When I was a freshman, you know, I didn't really know we had that, and I just kind of like stumbled upon their like practicing field once, and there were just a bunch of people running around with like pipes between their legs, like throwing balls at each other. I think that things that aren't funny are very funny, as in myself, and like just like terrible puns and like, I don't know, just really off-color jokes that probably can't be repeated here. There's this movie called Kung Fu Hustle, and it's from like the 2000s, I think, and it's the best Kung Fu movie of all time, in my humble opinion. But like no one's heard of it, and the few people that I have shown it to have been like, how dare you show that to me? They like laugh in my face and they hate it. To unwind, this makes me sound like a huge nerd, but I just go home and play a bunch of video games. Sometimes they stress me out even more if I'm like particularly competitive, but when I win, it's a good night.
Be sure to stay tuned after the break for our Truman Sports Update.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Truman State University has established a roller hockey club and traveling team that competes against other schools. Team captain Mark Hogan said the process started with a series of pickup games at the Recreation Center a couple of years ago. He said he started the charting process to establish the club with the union and involvement services when there were enough guys showing interest to form an actual team. Truman had a hockey team in 2007, but as interest faded, the sport struggled to stay on campus. Hogan said that the club hockey club is diverse. Players range from students to faculty and staff, and even some Kirksville residents. Team member Matthew has been with the club since his freshman year at Truman and helps with the club charting process. He said anyone can join the club, they just need to put in the work and show up. The club joined its first tournament just a few weeks ago. The team is competing in the National Collegiate Roller Hockey Association this fall. The team played 4 games in 1 day. Hogan said it was a lot of fun and a good experience for the team. He also said the guys played well against the established teams. This year, the team is looking to compete in 2 more tournaments next semester and 6 or 7 leagues games. Hogan hopes this expands next year to a full 10-game season and a 4 to 6 tournaments.
Both the men's and women's basketball team lost their first on-the-road exhibition games last weekend. The men lost to Illinois State University with a total score of 68-74. The Lady Bulldogs lost 55-95 against the Mizzou Tigers. The men's team was leading at the end of the first half with a score of 39-26. Guard Broderick Thomas was the Bulldogs' lead scorer with 21 points. Head coach Jeff Horner hasn't been around as much as he would like due to health issues. He says part of his philosophy has been to not worry about the small things and play through adversity. The women's basketball team followed Mizzou the entirety of the game. The Lady Bulldogs did outscore the Tigers in the third quarter, but ultimately Mizzou came out on top. The top scorers for the Bulldogs were guards Hannah Bellinger with 15 points and Sloan Toda with 14 points. Interim head coach Theo Dean says it took the team a while to adjust to the size and athleticism of their opponents. He also says the ending score didn't fully represent how the Bulldogs played because in the last half of the game, the Tigers only outscored the Bulldogs by 3 points. Both teams travel to play next week. The Lady Bulldogs will be up against the University of Illinois on November 5th at 7 p.m. The Bulldogs compete against the University of Findlay on November 8th at 5 p.m.
The Bulldog volleyball team lost their conference game against Drury University last weekend, but bounced back with a victory against Southwest Baptist University, ending with a 10-14 record. The team traveled to Springfield, Missouri on Friday to face off against Drury, only to be beaten 0-3. The next day, the team traveled to Bolivar, Missouri to play against Southwest Baptist. The team won 3-0, stopping its 3-game losing streak. Head coach Ben Brindley said the team has been struggling with offense, but its defense has been solid. Outside hitter Morgan Smith says the team began with a rocky start to the conference, but it came together at the end of each game with a positive attitude. Brindley says the Bulldogs practice anywhere from 15 to 18 hours a week to continually push themselves to improve teamwork and technique. The team's next game will be this Friday, November 1st, at home against William Jewell University.
This has been your Truman Sports Update.
Be sure to stay tuned after the break for our Halloween segment.
Families come in all sizes and shapes. Sometimes your friends are your family by choice, or sometimes you're just stuck with Uncle Charles. But what we know is that you want to protect the people that are close to you, but the flu can unravel everything. Your flu vaccine protects you and your family. No matter what draws your family together, protect yourself, protect your family. Everyone needs a flu vaccine.
Welcome to our Halloween segment. It's time to get spooky. First, we have a story on hauntings at the Missouri State Penitentiary. Join reporter Gabby Tweehouse for this frightening tale.
The Missouri State Penitentiary is one of Jefferson City's biggest tourist attractions. The State Penitentiary was once deemed the bloodiest 47 acres in America by Time magazine. Tour guides Diane Kitchell, Maggie Wells, and Tom Wells sat down to talk about their knowledge of the penitentiary and experiences they have had working there throughout the years.
I'm Diane Kitchell. I'm a ghost tour guide at Missouri State Penitentiary.
I'm Maggie Wells. I'm the last original ghost tour guide from when we started 10 seasons ago.
And I'm Tom Wells. I'm one of the ghost tour guides.
One night I was leading a ghost tour. Well, it was May 5th, 2 years ago. I'll never forget that night as long as I live. We have the shadow figure that changes shapes in Housing Unit 3 down on Death Row. I was leading my tour down, and as I went, I always hold a K2 meter, electromagnetic field detector meter, up, and I stopped dead in my tracks about a third of the way down the walk because it just got extremely dark, like right here. And I could just feel something. And my meter, I ran it over this way, and it lit up clear to red, and then I went back here, and it went back to green, and I went back here, and it went to red, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's really something there. And I just stood there, and it finally dissipated or backed up or whatever it did, but it was gone then, and my meter went back to normal, and we resumed the tour.
There's definitely more than one or two shadow things down in death row. We haven't seen it so much in the past couple years, but there were many times that we would go downstairs and they would seem to be like lined up. One would sit in the windowsill, one would, lean against the bars. Sometimes we could see them like peek their heads out of the cell.
Whitehouse has some stuff in it. There's a couple of people that work with us, other tour guides. They actually had a shadow man wave at him this spring, and she asked, would you do that again? And it did it again, and it did it in front of a group of people.
Well, Housing Unit 1, that first one you come in when you start the tours, tends to be a little quieter, but then when something happens in there, it's usually pretty attention-getting. Housing Unit 4, the one that's closed due to the tornado damage, is very active. Shadow figures, light anomalies, we've seen a doppelganger in there. Then Housing Unit 3, you get the runner upstairs. Death row's usually got something going on. And then 3D that we went into last, that U-shaped room, tends to be kind of quiet, but it'll wake you right up if it wants to.
It's kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
No rhyme or no reason. I've seen, we've seen people show up at the front door with $20,000 worth of equipment and get nothing. And then we've walked through that place with flashlights and it's just hopping.
You never know what you're going to experience when you walk in there. It's different every single time, and I enjoy meeting all the people from all over the world that come to this place. It's amazing. We've had people from Romania. I had 4 from China the other night.
It's just the people. It's just the people. Just like she said, you don't know who's walking through that door. And you could go up there and thinking, okay, it's going to be just a good normal night. I got to get my information out, got to sound credible and all that. And you could walk out 2 hours later and it's just been chaos, because everybody was having such a good time. And, where else can you go and take a group of people and sit in the gas chamber and,
for real.
And explain to them about the 40 people's been put to death and, and it's just, and by the time you get done, it's you're kind of like family.
To celebrate the holiday, a few of our staff members dressed up, and we're going to introduce them. I am Rachel Whitehouse, and I'm dressed up as Barry B. Benson from the Bee Movie. You like jazz?
I'm Katie Varner, and I am Velma from Scooby-Doo. Jinkies.
First up, we have...
I am August Davis, and I am Mbiemba Jones.
Next, we have...
I'm Amanda Sherman, and I'm a witch.
Next up...
Hi, I'm Gabby Tweehouse, and I am a disco zombie thing. I guess disco is not dead.
And?
I'm Shane Nanswell, and I'm a sheep. So, bah.
Happy Halloween.
Next, we have a trailer for our new show, Kirksville Creeps. Check it out.
Kirksville, Missouri. A community rich with history and time-honored tradition. Home to generations of students and families alike. But what chilling secrets might be lurking just below the surface of this small town?
There were many times I stood in that hallway late at night, just hoping to get a glimpse of those dancing lights.
She said it was like a shadow, but in the middle of the room.
It was always weird that he was just staring at my window when there was nobody in there.
I once thought I saw a woman while sitting in the devil's chair. I looked away for a second, and I couldn't find her when I turned back.
Sometimes late at night we would hear a violin playing up on the third floor.
People in the dorms talk about hearing knocking and scratching when nobody's there, or just the feeling of being watched.
Kirksville is a very creepy place. Join us as we explore the dark, the strange, and the unexplained. Join us as we hear the unsettling tales of encounters with the unknown and the truth behind Kirksville's most hair-raising destinations. Join us for Kirksville Creeps.
For the last part of our Halloween segment tonight, we take a look at the new installment of our recurring series, Real People with Sam Elkins. This week's film is Halloween.
Hello, welcome back to today's episode of Real People. This is episode 5. I'm your host, Sam Elkins, and I'm joined today by the one and only
John Chung.
Today is a special episode. It's the Halloween special. So we will be comparing the 1978 original Halloween with the David Gordon Green 2018 Halloween that came out last year. The very first Halloween in 1978 is indubitably a classic. It's universally known as the horror classic that started the slasher craze from the 1980s. What do you think really kind of makes Halloween a horror classic?
I mean, you look at the character setup. You have Michael Myers, the iconic slasher. You know, at least once a Halloween, you see somebody dressed up as Michael Myers.
And Laurie Strode is the ultimate final girl, if we're being honest. That trope is a little overdone, but it's overdone probably because of Halloween. And I really enjoy the first film. I think the reason that it is such a horror classic is because it feels like a scary campfire story. Yeah. It's like an urban legend because it's Michael Myers. All you know is that he was this kid that murdered his sister, was locked away for years, then escapes on Halloween when he's 21.
Yeah.
And then that's all you know about him. Other than that, you see his face maybe once for a half a second in the original. Other than that, you don't see his face.
If you actually go in and then also going off that, look at the score, most of the pieces of music that are based around Michael Myers are called The Shape blanks. The Shape does this, The Shape is this. So he's not called Michael Myers except for in the film, but like even in the credits of the movie, as at the end of the movie they roll through, it's not Michael Myers, it's The Shape.
Yeah.
And then going off of that kind of campfire like vibe, if you look at it, throughout the entire film, they keep calling for the boogeyman and
he's treated as evil incarnate. That's his whole thing, is he's just pure evil.
Yeah.
You don't know what drives him. You don't know why he does what he does. Some films try to explain that, and those are undercutting what the original magic was. Okay, so 2018 Halloween. What are your thoughts?
I definitely like that they understood that the character is older. Both Michael and Laurie are both older now. They've had time to mature, and so it's definitely more of that, it's the final grudge match between Michael and Laurie.
And I think that the 2018 Halloween has a sort of reverence for the original that other sequels or remakes didn't have.
Yeah, the original is iconic, and it sets up beautifully the 2018 movie because the 2018 borrows all that dread and that looming portion of Michael Myers is in the corner, but he could be in any corner.
Yeah.
But it says, okay, but now we can light Michael on fire and it be okay.
Yeah.
Or have all these really interesting shots. Jamie Lee Curtis on the range, taking a pump shotgun to different targets.
Yeah.
It allows us to explore that idea that things can be darker, but also Michael Myers is still scary even if he's just standing in a corner.
Yeah, exactly. However, while I think that the new 2018 Halloween is very good as a horror sequel, I don't think it quite lives up to the original, and the only reason I say that is because it's really hard to live up to that sort of innovation. Because, looking back on the original Halloween, it's very easy for us to say these things like, it's not as intense as movies now, but that's because it set up every other horror film after it, especially slasher films.
Yeah.
So it started these new tropes because these things that were being done in these horror films weren't being done before Halloween came out. And the reason I say this new one doesn't live up to that is because it doesn't do anything that's totally new.
But it's definitely just, here's a classic Michael Myers story, but with, new paint.
Yeah. It's not an instant classic horror film.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all the time we have today for Real People Episode 5. If you'd like to see the full Halloween special, check it out on Truman Media Network Television's YouTube page. That should be posted there pretty soon. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. For complete news coverage, be sure to stay tuned to KTRM, pick up a copy of The Index, and look at Detours Magazine's latest adventure online. Don't forget to also check out our news content on tmn.truman.edu.
You can also follow TMN on Facebook and Twitter for breaking news updates. And if you missed part of our broadcast tonight, check out TMN TV on YouTube. If you've ever thought about being on TV, be sure to head on over to tmn.truman.edu/apply to fill out an application today.
From all of us here at TMN, thank you for tuning in and have a happy Halloween.